And this is despite the current Prime Minister, when he was opposition leader, committing in 2013 to amend the law and ring-fence the funds for its primary purpose. Do you recall that, Mr. Prime Minister? Let me remind you of your words. In an All Angles interview in 2013, you were asked, is it your belief in principle that the funds of the National Housing Trust should be ring-fenced exclusively for the benefit of NHT contributors? And Mr. Prime Minister, you answered saying it should be ring-fenced to use for the objects and purposes of the legislation.
Bless up, ABR family and viewers. Welcome back to the channel. It's your girl, and Isabel Rose. And in this one, Mark Golding reminds Andrew Holness of the mandate of the NHT, lays out plans for nurses, teachers, police, low-income earners that will ensure all can own a home at an affordable cost. We learned that the current administration have been taking $11 billion from the NHT fund to help fund the budget each year. And for the 9 years, that will amount up to $99 billion. You know how much house that could have built for civil servants, for low-income persons? That was the mandate and should still be the mandate of the National Housing Trust, but this government has strayed away from that. Building houses selling at a whopping $30-40 million. How much away I can own a house with them there, prices there? ABR family, I want to listen to this. Or teachers, or nurses, or policemen, low-income earners. This one is specifically for UNO. And after hearing this layout of the plans from the People's National Party, me want to see what UNO are going to do this coming general election. When we see that this government has basically sought out for themselves, them friends, them cronies, them families. So what about the people? When they go ahead and they take our future earnings, spending it loosely, give it back to UNO, $20,000 reverse tax credit, and later on the country will be indebted deeply. Our children and our grandchildren will have to pay that back. When Ralston Hyman are opening their eyes to these things, when the cuss him say in political and only a look pan politics. Wake up, Jamaica. But before we make you listen to this, go ahead, like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Notification shout out goes to Major Daps. Big up yourself, Rasta. Thanks for the continued support, each and every one.
Mr. Speaker, the People's National Party knows that public sector workers are hurting from the way in which the pay rationalization was done. So we have come up with 3 measures to show our appreciation for their service to the nation. Our second strategy is a special National Housing Trust package of benefits for public servants, young people, and low-wage earners. Firstly, public sector workers. They used to enjoy a preferred rate of interest on their NHT loans, but this government took it away. We will restore public sector workers access to a reduction in their NHT interest rates. Police, nurses, teachers, doctors, firefighters, indeed all public servants who are NHT borrowers will get back this benefit. Secondly, Mr. Speaker, we will give public sector workers a break when it comes to commencing their loan payments. Currently, when an NHT loan is disbursed, the borrower has to commence payments in the following month. We recognize that buying a home has a lot of other costs attached to it. We will therefore allow a public sector worker a 3-month moratorium period after disbursement of the loan before commencing any loan payments. And that will give them time to recover the expenses they've incurred, to buy some furniture, and to get their place ready to move in. And Mr. Speaker, we have one more goodie for our public sector workers. Currently, the debt service ratio, the DSR, required by the NHT is 33.3%. That means that the loan payments each month cannot exceed 33 1/3 of their gross salary. We are extending a preferred 40% debt service ratio to public sector workers for their NHT loans to allow them room to borrow a larger loan from the NHT to buy their home. Mr. Speaker, we recognize that often the hardest hurdle for young people in buying a home is the deposit. Well, young people, we have you in mind. The next PNP government will establish a special Young Owners Deposit Fund of $1 billion within the NHT. Using those NHT resources to enable young persons under 35 years of age to access $500,000 towards their deposit once they have been an NHT contributor for 2 years or more. They will be able to apply to the NHT and get their $500,000 deposit grant. Time come for young Jamaicans to own a home. And Mr. Speaker, we have to do something for the low-income borrowers from the fund, from the National Housing Trust. The cost of home insurance continues to increase. Last year alone, insurance for homes increased by 25%. And this is passed on to NHT borrowers as it's wrapped up in their monthly loan payments. So when you pay a loan, you pay for the principal, you pay for the accrued interest, and you pay for the insurance in the payment that you make. This is particularly hard on NHT borrowers at the lowest band who earn $30,000 or less per month. They also need a break. Mr. Speaker, the next PNP government will help these low-income NHT borrowers by absorbing the cost of the insurance on their homes. This means that their monthly payments will be lower and they will be able to afford a bigger mortgage loan. We are looking out for the low-income NHT borrowers. For this fiscal year now ending, 2024-25, was funded by over $70 billion of non-tax revenues, which came from the sale of 12 years of future income. That meant that what is to be earned over 12 years from Jamaica's future revenues from the Norman Manley International Airport was sold, and sold so that that money could be spent now. How was the money used? To finance various recurrent expenses, a one-time so-called reverse income tax credit, 1 year of some other tax relief that is going to be an ongoing annual cost to the budget, and some other expenditures. None of these will have a lasting beneficial impact on the future of this country. Mr. Speaker, recurrent expenditures ought properly to be funded from revenues generated in the year in which those expenditures are incurred, not by selling off future income and leaving the cupboard empty for years to come. Mr. Speaker, not one school, not one hospital, not one water reservoir, no other lasting national asset has been built with those funds. Nothing that will deliver solid benefits to the country throughout those 12 years when the income has been disposed of. And Mr. Speaker, when you add to that the $9 billion expected from the sale of the government's remaining shares in Trans-Jamaican Highway, the highway which we built, it looks, sounds, and smells like running with it to me. Yes. And there is more of this planned for this coming fiscal year. The revenue estimates for 2025-26, the coming year, have $139.8 billion of non-tax revenues, including financial distributions of $66.2 billion. I inquired of the Ministry of Finance as to the composition of the $66.2 billion of financial distributions. And I was told that, and I quote, the major sources are the National Housing Trust and the monetization of contractual cash flows. Well, Mr. Speaker, we know that the government is still taking the $11.4 billion out of the National Housing Trust each year. And this is despite the current Prime Minister, when he was opposition leader, committing in 2013 to amend the law and ring-fence the funds for its primary purpose. Do you recall that, Mr. Prime Minister? Let me remind you of your words. In an All Angles interview in 2013, you were asked, is it your belief in principle that the funds of the National Housing Trust should be ring-fenced exclusively for the benefit of NHT contributors? And Mr. Prime Minister, you answered saying it should be ring-fenced to use for the objects and purposes of the legislation. Well, that never happened, and you're still taking it to fund the annual budget of the country. Mr. Speaker, if $11.4 billion of $66.2 billion is being taken from the NHT, then the other $54.8 billion must be from the so-called monetization of cash flows. I inquired further of the Ministry of Finance, and it has been confirmed that another large sale of future income is to take place in the coming year. However, despite my asking, no further details have been provided. Clearly, Mr. Speaker, this will be another run-with-it transaction, selling off future revenues to fund expenditures for this year's budget. In other words, further emptying the cupboard in the coming years with nothing lasting to show for it. This is not sound fiscal management. To the contrary, it is playing fast and loose with the future of the country.
And as I stated before, Mark Golding laid out a whole heap of plans. But there's still more to come. When they call the general election, you will see more in the manifesto of the People's National Party. My people, remember to like, share, and subscribe to the channel on the road to 30K and beyond. Get this video to at least 5,000 likes. Mark Golding with a splendid presentation. And in my eyes, him get 10 out of 10. A whole heap of other people calling me, telling me that Mark Golding would have gotten a 10 out of 10 from them. What says Uni in the comment section? Stay tuned for more videos, stay tuned for more updates. Big up on yourself.